Just going to do a quick tutorial in 3D Coat. Some hard surface modelling is a model I'm working on at the minute. It's still very unfinished, but just working on some techniques really, and I thought I'd share them. Essentially we're going to be using the cut-off tool, the Vox layer, the transform tools and primitives really. So for example the cockpit area I made with the sphere. I'm just going to create a new layer, call it temp. I'll press enter on the keyboard to add the sphere to the scene. I'm just going to transform it a little bit, stretch it a little bit longer. Well, it needs to be a bit bigger than that. And basically you're just going to use the cut-off tool with the polygon selection line tool. Press E to bring up the E panel. Or you can select it up the top. And essentially we're just going to cut lines. Beforehand I'm just going to press space and choose Res Plus a couple of times just to give us a bit more resolution to work with. You can do this afterwards if you want, but it's better to do it before. You kind of get cleaner edges. The other thing to note is it's worth putting it on orthographic rather than perspective, and then using your Alt and Shift to lock the side view in. So just going to make some cuts really, and whatever angle you're facing the camera at, you know, you can kind of cut some nice little slices out. Even starting with a sphere you can get some quite interesting shapes because you've still got the curvature and the sharp edges too. So we're just going to cut it into shape, have a quick look around it. From the front as well you can chop things out so as you got a different kind of profile down the side. If you don't like the look of it, just undo it and do something else, you know. But it's all about getting these angles really, and chopping the bits out from the angles. So like for example that one I started from lower down and looked at it, and you kind of got two diagonal cuts, and we'll do the same with the kind of windshield of the cockpit. You end up with a kind of cut that's got a, you know, centre line down it. And you can just make little cuts in there and add details. Great little tool. And you can use the other things on there. You don't have to just use the polygon tool. I mean, you can cut squares out, you can cut circles out, cut whatever you want out. And using the depth panel you can cut you know, panels in or cut kind of slots into things. The other thing I'm going to use is the extrude tool. This is great for making like little panels, but it depends on the radius and the depth. You have to play around with these figures a bit. And again we're using the polygon line selection tool. Basically you can make little joined on panels. As you can see, it's kind of got quite a nice beveled edge. I did a smooth all then, but it didn't make a lot of difference. Probably worth doing later on, to be honest. But great for making those little raised panels. I think you can kind of just change your depth, and you can make thinner ones and thicker ones. And just put a few underneath here. And because the symmetry's on, you know, you've only got to do one side, and the other side gets copied across. It's just a good way of building up little areas of detail, and you know, you can build them up several layers thick if you want. And we can also use the control button to actually cut them out rather than build them upwards. So great for your kind of indents, and it's just a very quick way of beveling these edges and getting some interesting shapes and forms. And like I say, just hold control down while you're using extrude to go inwards rather than outwards. add all sorts of little details. And okay, just going to look at the other tool that we're going to use in this. It's called a Vox layer, and we've got like a thickness set in here that obviously the higher the number, the thicker the thing that gets created. Basically you kind of draw masks on here, press apply, and it'll create a new object with some thickness to it. If you want to get rid of the selection, you can clear selection, or you can control minus from the selection. So I'm just using the polygon tool from the panel again. Just a great way of adding lots of little panels and details. Like I say, if you use control, you can cut away from the current selection, so you can make circles in it, holes through it, panel lines, whatever you want to do. And just shape it a little bit more. So just going to click apply. As you can see, it creates a new object in the Vox tree. I'm just going to clear the selection now. I've just got a new little object. Sometimes it wants cleaning up a little bit with a cut-off tool, which is kind of cool as well, because you can get nice clean angled edges this way. I'm just going to tidy it up just to show you what I mean. Again, it's just very quick to just go around these edges, chop them off, make them nice and clean, make sure the angle's right. Sometimes there can be a problem though, if you're not fully side on, you can end up, because it cuts right through, it'll also cut through to the one on the other side. So that can cause some issues if you're not exactly square on. But I mean, the way to do that is, if you want to make something specific, just make one side of it, you know, and then mirror it in the Vox tree. You can mirror it later on. I think that's what's happening now. I think I actually made the cuts from it, but it's actually cutting through the one the other side because I'm not square on, you know. So if I square it up now and make the cut, it'll work. So it's just a great way of adding these details and chopping things in, and you know, you can add plenty of hard surface stuff, but with picking up the curves from underneath. I'm just going to show you how I added the rivets as well. We basically click on the circle model, the sphere model in the merge tool. We're going to click on pen. Setting your depth shows you how far inset that model is going to be. As I move it up and down, as you can see, it shows how deep it will be embedded into the model. And then the size is obviously controlled by the brush size. I'm just going to create a new layer and call it rivets. I'm going to res plus a couple of times so it's got plenty of resolution to actually pick up the rivets. I'm just going to play around with the setting of the depth. It's not quite right. So other than that, you can just get a toe and blobbing them on. I mean, they haven't got to be rivets. They could be screws, or they could be spikes, or, you know, whatever you want. And you can also create your own model in the Vox tree, and then if you export for merge pattern, it'll end up in that menu at the top, and you just double click it and you can place them all over your model really quickly. Just put a bit more resolution on the main thingy, but it's not made a lot of difference. But that's taken us up to about 2 million polygons, but we can also resample it back down to about 300,000 or something. So it doesn't look a lot different, but you can get really smooth things but then resample them, and they're quite low poly really, but they keep the details from higher up. So that's it really. This process of kind of drawing things and, you know, cutting away and creating panels using the Vox layer is pretty much all you need. I mean, you can also transform things, clone your layers, you know, build up some thickness and different shape panels and whatever. And the other thing to block in some forms as well, you can use things like the E selection tool with the polygon selection tool, and then just use like extrude and draw a shape in from the side, any old shape, and then you can cut it into shape, which is what I did with the tail. I just drew out a shape which it extruded, and then I made a few cuts to shape it to the kind of width and shape I wanted. So I'll give it a go.